Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to the CPS Web Tips for July. My name is Jeff Dunn. Little housekeeping. You should be muted when you joined, but you can post any questions you have in the Zoom window, and I'll try to monitor that throughout the presentation, especially at the end. A little bit about myself first. I have over 14 years experience in SAP, mostly with dealing with data, and have been with CPS for 3 years, working with Winshuttle, various tools, and for 11 years total. A lot of that is with that data management and conversion using Winshuttle Studio. The topic today is going to be building a script that we can do multiple BOM operations from one template in one script. And the operations that we're going to do are adding, deleting, or changing a few fields on the BOM items. So here's a couple examples of how you might use this kind of script. One is if you needed to mass replace one component with another in multiple bills of material. Another is updating the item category, and the item category on a bill of material is not editable after it's been created. So the way you can do this is you can delete the line that has the item category that you want to change and add it back with the new item category. We're going to show an example of that. Also, you may want to change the quantity or for some other reason need to add or remove components because of design changes in the bill of material. Okay, so this is, we're going to create a transaction script, and these are the same steps you would use to create most any transaction script in Winshuttle. You want to go into SAP manually before you start recording and review the screens and the buttons and the fields that you want to work with. Then you want to record, making sure you touched all the fields that you want to be in the script. Then you map the fields. Once you're done with the recording, you map fields to the Excel template. And we're going to do a couple of these bulleted items here. We're going to set required fields so that if they don't have a field filled in, it'll prompt them or give you a log message about that. And then we're going to use the skip field and skip screen settings, and we'll look at that in a second. And then the final step is to test with sort of representative data that you might use your script with. Okay. So now we're to the demo stage here. Okay, so that first step was to sort of plan your script before you get into the recording. So we're using, let me go back one. We're using CS02, which is to edit a bill of material. And I'll just, that bill of material is fine. So we need to do three things. We need to be able to add, delete, or change. So to add an item, with a lot of Winshuttle scripts, anything that has a table like this, you want to make sure that you know where that line that you're adding is going to be, where you're writing the new data. So you need to make sure, and this could be, a variable number of lines. So what you do is you use the New Entries button, and what that does is it should shift the last line of the bill of material to be the first row in the table. That means we're going to be writing to the second row. So then we would just write this, type in the item category field, the component. I'm just going to use the same component for now. And then the quantity, and I think usually when you have a component, it can look up the unit of measure, so we won't have to do that. So when you hit enter, like I said, it looked that up. Now we've created a new line. So that's one step that we're going to do. Another possibility we're going to do is to change an existing line. So if you have multiple lines here, I scrolled up. Let's say we want to change this third line. Again, we need to make sure that we get that line to a predictable position for the script to be able to interact with it. So what we're going to use is the position button and type in the item number field. And it's basically like searching. Oh, I'm sorry, I meant to do 30. Do that again. And so it shifts 30 up to the first line. So with the add, we were always writing to the second line. With the change, we're writing to the first line. So we could then change this bill of material, like let's say the quantity. And the third operation that we want to do, and of course after that we would hit enter to commit the change. The other one we'd want to do is hit delete to do a delete. So again, we'd use the position. It's moving line 20, which I searched for, to the top. You would select that line using this little box over on the left, and then you can hit the trash can button on the toolbar, and that would be the way you would delete that line. It's going to ask if you really want to delete. So I'm not going to do that yet because I don't want to change the bill yet. So okay, so those are the three possible changes that we want to be able to do. And then when you're done with those changes, you would hit save and it would update the bill of material with those changes. So now we're ready to record. I'm going to say no here. Okay, so you need to be out of the bill of material if you're going to use that for your recording, because otherwise it'll give you an error that someone has the bill locked. Okay, so if we go into Studio, and you say new, of course, transaction, create from recording. Transaction code was CS02. You can normally leave this recording mode as standard, and then if you have trouble, you can sort of investigate the other modes that might be possible. It defaults to what should be the best one for this transaction. Okay, let me get my data here. Okay, I'm going to use a different BOM for the change, one that has a few more components. So you put in your material, your plant, your BOM usage, which is usually either 1 or 3. 3 is, I think, universal, 1's production. Change number, if you want to use it. We're not going to use it during the demonstration, but you could capture these changes under a change number if you're using revision control. And then you hit enter when you're done, and it goes into the editing the BOM components. So let's do the first one is to add a line. So let's just do, like one of those examples I said is, you can see here that the item category is grayed out, so you're not able to edit that. So let's say we wanted to change one of these lines to a non-inventory type component. So we could put writing to the second line, we're going to type in for non-inventory. I'm just going to use this last one, H21 -S1 00548. one into the quantity field, and just in case we need the unit, we should tab over to that. Yeah, so it's taken us to an item detail screen. You can to get past that, and then to the second screen. We could have recorded with any of these fields too if you had cost relevancy or reference text and things like that. You could put into the. We're not going to do that today. Okay. So that was the add. Now let's say we want to delete the one that had the L. So we do a position. Item number is 0080. That's the first line, which just happened to be where it was. But let's say we wanted to delete this. We're going to click on that box on the left. Delete button on the toolbar. Say yes, you want to delete. And so now we have this component. I should have used it. I should have used the same item number for the new component that replaced it. We'll do that during the test. And then the last thing that we wanted to do was, so we added and we deleted, now we need to change. So let's say we want to change this line 40, change the quantity from 1. So position 0040, enter to move that up to the top row, change this to 4. And then it's got this other screen. And we entered through those two screens, and we're going to hit. So we've done all 3 operations, so now we're going to hit save. So what that allows us to do is we made 3 changes, all possible changes that we want to do with the script, and we're going to put a condition loop around each one to take care of the, choosing which one to do for each line. So. Okay, so this is your expert view of unmapped script. So the first thing we can do is, well, you can always start with the log. The run log we're going to put in the first column. The second column we're going to keep for what type of change it is. So let's go ahead and find those fields, or find those screens. So the first screen for the add was here. After we put the material on the plant and the BOM usage, we went to the second screen and entered or clicked on the new items button, which is what that OK code associates with. And then we can get down to, this is where we did a search for the item to delete. So you may just want to, when you're recording, you may want to just make notes of what screens pop up, because that'll help you figure out which of these go with which change. So we're going to put a create condition here, and column B is what we're going to trigger off of. And so for this one, this is the add operation, so I'm just going to put an A for add. So that creates a loop there. So the next one was a delete. So we started on this screen and we went to this yes was the confirmation that you really did want to delete. So we're going to create a condition. Again, it's going to be column B. And this one's going to be delete, so we'll put a D there. And the last one was a change. So we started with a search and we typed in the item number into that field, and we changed the quantity. So let's go down to here is where we entered through those item screens, and then the last step is to hit save. So we're going to create a condition here. Again, column B. This one's going to be C for change. And one thing I noticed is that the quantity, so we've got the quantity, but we don't have the component or the unit of measure. I'm not sure why that didn't show up, but you can go to View, Disable Fields. And hopefully it's in the disabled fields. I think I'm not down far enough. Let's go. So here's component quantity. So this is one of them, BOM component. That's on the other screen. Okay, well, it didn't capture that. So I'm going to cheat. I'm going to copy it from another script, but I guess I didn't click into those fields. So let me get that component. So in this case, you'd really have to re-record if you can't find that field name. Or if you do know the field name, you could enable one of these other fields and then just rename the description and the field reference under the name column. But we're going to do component and unit of measure. I'm just going to turn back off the disable field so it's a little easier to see. Okay, so that's what we should have recorded was the BOM component, the component quantity, and the component unit of measure. Okay, so now we're ready to map to the template. You guys are probably familiar with this. So we want material number in column C. You drag from the Excel up to the row that you want to map to. We're going to do that for plant, for BOM usage. The next field is the item category, which we should have only used on the add command. So that's here. And the BOM item number is on all three of the screens. So actually, we didn't get the BOM item number, so let me put that in. So that's here. I'm going to copy that from the delete up to the add. Make sure that's right. Sorry. So it should be actually should be POSN. Okay, so the BOM item number is going to be actually column G. Item category was F. Okay, so now we do the components and the quantity. Okay, hold on a second. Component should be I, or component should be H, quantity is I. Then there's no other mapping for add, and then we have on the delete, we really just need the item number for the delete. So you just want to know which line to delete. So a key point here is that you need to make sure this says preserved for any field that you're going to share, but for multiple rows in the mapping, you need to say preserve. So that'll keep, just going to think for a minute, but that should keep it in column G here. So you see both of the entries that mappings that we've done to G. So that's all for delete. And then for components, yeah, actually we need to remap those because I didn't do preserve. So if you drag from column H for the component up to this row, and then make sure this says preserve. Same thing for quantity. And last one's unit of measure, which should be here. Okay. The other thing that I noticed when I was doing some testing for this is that sometimes those additional screens don't show up. So anytime you have like another pop-up screen, or in that case it was a detail screen on the item that showed the text or the cost relevancy and different things, that's these screens here that we entered through. You should try checking skip screen if not found, and then that way it'll pass the enter key if the screen shows up, and if it doesn't, it'll just go to the next screen. So we should do that here, here, and there was a third one for some kind of purchasing data. And then same thing on this one, or no, I'm sorry, delete, there wasn't one of those, but on the change, we had two screens. Okay. So let's see what else we have. That was, oh, and then the other thing I was going to mention is you should set the required field setting. So that's this these buttons over here on each line. So we can set the little asterisk for the required field. So for adding a line, the item number is not required. If you leave it blank, it'll just take the next item number from the list. But everything else should be required. Item category, BOM component. Actually, it didn't take that. You got to click on the line and then click on the required button. And then component quantity is required, but unit of measure wouldn't be required. And then we go to delete. The only thing that's required here is the item number if you want to change. And then the change section, again, only the item number. Oh, I didn't map the item number here. So let's drag that up. Make sure we do preserve. So this one is, the item number is required for the line that you want to change, but none of these other fields are required. It's whatever you want to change. So if you don't have any data in any of them, then we'll end up, you'll just save the BOM back the way it was. Okay, see now it puts all three of the columns for the mapping there. So I want to click on that line. It's still thinking. required. Okay, the only other thing I was going to mention was that we should, on the Run tab, you should consider using the skip indicator. I think it makes the most sense here to use a blank. So we can leave any fields blank that we don't want to write to SAP. So like if we don't know something, like we don't know what the component number is, we just know what the quantity is, or vice versa, we could leave that field blank and then it just won't touch that in SAP. And the other thing that often is a good idea to do is run only unprocessed. So that means if you've already run it and then you accidentally leave the row number the same, then it won't run the same line again if it has a log message in the first column. So I like to click that almost every time. Okay, so I think we're ready to put some data in here and try the update here. I'm just going to pull up another script that it should work the way we did it, but this will be sure. So we have some data here that we want to change, change bombs that we want to change. So in the first two, we're going to add lines to this bomb. In this one, I put in the item number, and this one I left it blank, so it should pick the next item number, which in this case will be 100. And I just picked a couple of lines that were already in that bomb, but we can look at that real quick. That's 1700. So this one stops at line, actually we should change that to 80. Okay, so that's what the first two are going to do here. The next bomb, we're going to change sure why that's in. Okay, no, it's not used. All right, the next one we're going to change a quantity here on this line 20, and we're going to take line 30 and we're going to delete the one that was an L for the item category and add it back with the same data as an N. And then in the third bill of material, we are changing the component. So I think that did say 53, and we're going to change it to a 51. So let's go ahead and run. So we're now in the test phase. We've planned, we've recorded, we've mapped, and now we're testing. So you can change, of course, you can change the start row. Well, for some reason I've logged out of SAP. I think it's because I have Studio open on the other screen here. Okay, so we're just going to open it in this window. Okay, I see a question about while we're waiting for this to load. why did we put an item number in one column for an item that we were adding? In this example, or in one row, we put an item number in this column for adding, and we didn't do it in this column. I was just showing that you can, you could do it either way. So basically, if you leave this blank, it's going to pick the next number, that's, if it's set up to be every 10, it's going to be the next number after the next 10 after the last line of the bill. If you put a specific line in here, you could make it, for example, you could make this go to line 45 if you want to put it between 40 and 50. So that's an example where you want to give it a specific item number. And then some cases, like if you're changing down here, we were changing a item, we were deleting an item number or an item that had a L category, and we're adding it back as an N. So we want it to be specifically at the 30 position, not at the next position at the end of the list. So hopefully that explains that. So let me get back to. So let's try this one more time. So we're logged into SAP and Foundation. Well, the only one is, I think that purchasing screen was an extra screen that popped up. Maybe that's not recorded here. Yeah, for some reason, when we just recorded, we had a third screen here for add. So yeah, we would just have to make sure that screen is included. But the other changes should have happened. So let's just pick one. This one here. So this is 2000. I'm sorry, 1700. Plan 1000. So see if we can do this on the same screen at the same time. So you can see from this one that we were talking about the item numbers, the 90 went into item 90 and the blank went into 100 because that was the next available number. So that worked. Then the change, it changed to be, I can get it. It changed the quantity. Yeah. Yeah, change the quantity to 5 on line 20. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, that's a different bill. Yeah, so so let's go back to that bill. That's 2000. You do have to have the leading zeros for plant, otherwise it'll get you an error. So that's why I did the plan as a text here. So on this one, we took line 20 and we updated the quantity to 5, which is here. And then we deleted line 30 and we meant to add it back. So I'm not going to show you that, but we would have to go back and make sure we recorded, including that purchasing screen that it's prompting for here. And then the last one was just changing that component. So I think that's what I wanted to show you on the in the demo. So let's get back to the presentation. Okay, so just to summarize, we recorded a script with those 3 changes: delete, add, or change. We put a condition loop around each one tied to the Excel column that told you which one it was. We used the position button to make sure that for the change or delete, that the line that we want to affect is on the top row of the table. We used the skip field indicator blank for fields that we didn't want to touch. And I just wanted to make a note here that this same method would work with a lot of different transactions in SAP, for example, sales orders and quotations, or routing operation detail, purchase order items. The thing that may change is how you move that line to the top or the second row. Like in the purchase order, I think it's a filter. So you'll just have to research the transaction that you're working with. So if there's any other questions, we can look at those. I still don't see any. We'll wait a couple seconds. While I'm giving you guys a chance for that. Oops. Just a couple notes about other future events. The next web tip is Thursday, August 20th. It'll be on a composer topic. We have our web tips, I think it's every 3rd Thursday at this time. And then there's a discussion next week, a webinar on migrating from Foundation 11 to Evolve, if anybody's interested in that, and also sort of comparing that to Foundation 12. Evolve is the cloud, sort of SharePoint, not tied to SharePoint version. If you have any suggestions for web tips, we welcome those. We'd like to do topics you guys are interested in, and you can send those to info@clearprocess solutions. And then all these web tips going back a few years are on our YouTube channel, along with some other content. So if there's no other questions, I don't see any. Thanks for joining us today, and I hope you have a great day.